Further on the bill as amended, Representative Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've been listening intently tonight to the words of everybody that has spoken on this bill. The first thing that comes to mind, Representative Dubisky said that he could not imagine being a domestic violence victim. Unfortunately for me, I don't have to imagine. Been there, done that. And one thing I can tell you, you talked about all the great programs, the different organizations that are in place to help women and men that experience domestic violence, and there are some great organizations. But let me bring the perspective of a survivor to this debate. When you're going through domestic violence, you're living in silence, you're living in shame, you're living in fear, you don't trust anybody, and frankly, you don't want nobody to know what you're dealing with. It's embarrassing. And I never imagined in a million years it would be my testimony. And I have struggled tonight on whether I would get up and speak on this again, because it is so raw and real for me every time I have to go back to this experience. I thank God that I got to follow Representative Belinsky. I can agree with so much of what he just said. To not do nothing on this bill, to me, would be a crime. And I know many people can't understand it from my perspective, but what I will tell you is when you do muster up the courage to make a move, and I was only able to do that because I had a girlfriend that had not shared her story with me. I had no idea she had been a victim of domestic violence. But I used to call her when I got desperate and I just needed somebody to talk to. I didn't talk to her about the experience. Or I'd go see her. She used to do my hair, as a matter of fact. She was my beautician for a while. And I guess there was something she recognized in my behavior, something she could identify in the words that weren't spoken, in the silence, and in the fear. And one night, I can remember, because what they do, and I'm talking about abusers, they alienate you. They disconnect you from your family. So I would put my kids down to sleep, and I would sneak out and go to the payphone. And this particular night, when I spoke to her, she said, "You know what? You haven't said it, and I haven't said it, but I know what you're going through, and you need to get out. You need to make a plan of escape. And if there's anything that I can do to help you, you let me know." But just knowing that I had somebody that I could trust, because that was an issue for me, she gave me the strength to start thinking about what I needed to do in order to get me and my kids out of that house, because he did have a gun. And yes, I used to take the bullets out because I felt like if he decided to use the gun, he was going to have to find the bullets before he could use the gun. And either I was going to run or I was going to fight. But I knew my chances of fighting him with any kind of weapon, be it a knife, a bat, his fist, a brick, I felt like I stood a better chance against any of those instruments. But I knew in my heart that I didn't stand a chance against a loaded gun. So I made a plan of escape. And it only happened after he shoved me through a glass patio door while I was 5 months pregnant with my daughter. And it was but by the grace of God, with a 10% chance of living. She'll be turning 23 years old this November the 10th. I'm here to tell you that I identify with this in a way that supersedes anything that I could stand here and say to you in words. There is no perfect law, but our job is to make the law, not to enforce the law. I think that what we have to do tonight is make a decision on who we want to protect. And I understand all the arguments that were given, and there are exceptions to every rule. But if there's only one woman that is saved by being guarded with this bill, because with a permanent restraining order, this automatically happens. The guns are taken. But when you decide to leave, that is the most vulnerable, the most scary, the most dangerous time in that whole situation. And God knows I didn't go into it knowing that this was what I was getting myself into. And a lot of nights I prayed, it was for better or for worse, and this was just the worst. It was gonna get better, but it didn't get better. And when that incident happened, and I was looking at my daughter, 1 pound, 11 ounces, fighting for her life, I knew that I had to do something. Because if he could do that to me while I was pregnant, what could he do to me, her, and my son? So yes, there is no perfect law. But I believe that this law will aid in many ways and give women the confidence, those that have the courage to even go and seek a TRO. Because I didn't have the courage to do that. I left like a thief in the night because that's what I felt I needed to do. Life is choice-driven. We live and die by the choices we make. And that was my choice, and that was my situation. But that was just me. Everybody's situation is different. We can't sit here and decide what is right for a woman or a man who is in a domestic violence relationship. But what we can do is give them a window of opportunity to make it out alive. Because you can get your gun back, but you cannot give a victim his or her life back. I thank God for Valeria that night. I thank God that she was able to speak reason, sound reasoning into my spirit, and that I was able to muster the strength and the intestinal fortitude to get out. And I just think that we should give women and men the choice on how they feel it's most safe for them to leave. But when they do make that choice, that we cover them with this option. Because I'm not the type, and I respect women that will go out and get a gun or go to karate or whatever it is they want to do to protect themselves. I respect that. That's a choice. But a choice for me would never be to own a gun. I could never become the person that I fear. I could never do the thing to him that he could have possibly done to me. That's not who I am. And that's just me. I'm not speaking about negatively about any other woman's decision to do whatever she feels is right for her. But that would have not been an option for me. So I just think that, when it's all said and done, we should give people the right to choose and the right to feel safe. It's about being safe. And, the statement was made, the only reasonable way a small frame woman could protect herself from a large frame man is to own a gun. I don't agree with that. Isn't that what we have the police force for? Aren't they here to serve and protect? I think that's what it's for. And that should be one of the options. So in closing, I sat here and I did a little research because there were quite a few questions coming. And I just wanted to close with this. A recent survey of Connecticut voters conducted on behalf of Americans for Responsible Solutions, the gun violence prevention organization founded by former Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords and her husband,